Hi, good morning. It's me, 𝘱𝑜𝘍𝑒𝑘𝑎chian, and today I'm continuing my series of lectures regarding one of my pet line, Schliemann Gambit. And today I'm going to introduce you a game, I would say most recent game. I played almost like a couple of weeks ago against Christian Chirillo, the game from US Chess League. It's week 5, and we had played against Dallas, and I had black pieces. And I think the game is very interesting, and also as an opening line, I'm going to explain to you all this idea, all these insiders. Okay, so I had the black pieces. D3. Well, this is one of the most, let's say, positional ways how white dealing against Schliemann Gambit. Idea is very simple. I'm going to simply connect my d-pawn with my e-pawn. I'm going to protect my e-pawn and kind of using weaknesses from black side since they played f5. But I'll tell you what, I used to have really good result against d3. Most recently I lost the game against Robert Hess, and I think I already put this game for you guys for our fans. And the game was also a very interesting battle. I think I missed some chances, but Robert played fantastically, and he deserved the full point. He beat me. So the position which appeared after these moves, it's very well known. So Christian played here against me bishop g5, which kind of transposed the situation from the main lines, main positions. I'll tell you what, a few other moves must be mentioned here. Obviously move queen d3. And move castle king side, the main line, which after bishop c5, if white plays here bishop g5, then position could be transposed to situation with my game against Chirillo. And but one independent line right here would be queen d3, also very, I would say, poisoned move, very tricky line. And if black doesn't know this line, they could be in really trouble. I'm going to discuss about this line in my next lectures because it's a huge subject to cover. I'll tell you what, just about a week ago, a very important game has been played between Michael Adams from white side and Teimour Radjabov from black side, when Radjabov introduced his pet line knight d4 instead of playing like main line of d6. So I mentioned that in my previous lecture. Teimour Radjabov is the main top player in elite who keep playing this Schliemann Gambit consistent, and who actually gave Schliemann Gambit kind of rebirth, because looks like Schliemann Gambit right now has a right to leave and to leave along elite players. So that's what we'll discuss in our next lectures. In my game against Christian Chirillo, my opponent played here. Also, I forgot to mention one little subject here. Playing knight c3, it's not good in general, because black would play here bishop b4, and the whole point of this line, black simply is going to trade dark color bishop on any piece, preferably knight, and then put it pawn on d6, creating pawn chain and having fantastic position, because in general black doesn't need to have a bishop in their setup, so they absolutely feel fine to give up the bishop. Let's say as soon as you cover and play bishop d2, I will simply capture on c3 and I play d6, and that's the kind of dream for black to play, because they have very strong pawn chain, they have semi-open file f. They have very nice attacking view in future game. Also, I need to mention situation when sometimes white will try to take the pawn. Let's say castle king side, bishop c5. There is a line when white trying to play bishop takes c6, bc, and knight takes e5. But in general, the situation also fine. Many situations has been played. I think most recent games, it was 2 games between Anand and Radjabov, and I believe Anand and Magnus Carlsen. They both ended as a draw. and you could simply pull up those games from any database and you can simply see it. And again, I'm going to return to them later on. So in my game against 𝘱𝑗, my opponent went here bishop g5, which again I'm going to remind, pretty much transposed to situation when we're dealing one of the main lines here. So this is kind of key position, actually this key position. And today this position became so popular many years ago, and after my game, as soon as I played my game, I think a few days after, I was surprised to see the game between Anand and Ivantschuk, and where Ivantschuk actually played the same line and he beat world champion Anand. It's a very interesting game as well, and I'm going to actually refer this game in my next lecture. So my opponent went here knight h4. Knight h4, maybe it's called sideline, maybe not. To me, it's one of the main lines. It's really hard to see the difference between calling, like which one is called main line, which one is not. Anand played here c3. Idea of that move to kind of defend d4 square in general and not letting black to jump on d4. Idea behind knight h4, it's actually to control f5 square after capturing on f6 and trying to squeeze f5 square. So knight h4, knight d4. Again, Theo is suggesting to play here something like bishop e6. If you will see many manuals, many books, many softwares, it keep telling you like this is the main line. Nothing personal, but I just don't like it. I just don't like it because it seems to me it's slow, and also I always teach everyone to believe in logic, and to me logic is very simple. If one of the main lines called c3 to defend d4 square, then it means if white lose control on d4 square, just grab it. That's what I believe. So that's why to me bishop e6, it's kind of slow motion move, and I'm not accepting that move. So knight d4, situation appeared to me recently twice. Once I played against international master from Germany at Aeroport Open in Moscow back to February 2011, and my opponent played quickly bishop d3. In fact, the whole line he was blitzing, and I kind of got scared a little bit, and I felt inconvenient to play mainline by being afraid being catch up some kind of surprise. And I choose some sideline, and game went very sharp, and at some point I was winning, then I was kind of in trouble. So at the end of the day, we drew the game. So this time I felt my opponent definitely doesn't know this line, and I catch him by surprise. And he went bishop c4, which in fact after an extra move b5 transposed the situations with bishop d3, and only with one addition of playing b7, b5. So in this case I felt, you know what, I'm going to play mainline because it looks like my opponent doesn't know this kind of details of this position. So I played here c6. Yeah, first move here, again, theory says nothing about like no indication in evaluation. They keep saying both move absolutely, let's say, playable, and by strength they kind of equal. I mean, I'm talking about either take on a by knight or bishop. My personal opinion, capturing my knight, it could be dangerous, which this game is proving. My understanding of this position, since you played knight h4 with idea to control f5 square, so most logical continuation from white perspective should be bishop f6, gf, and knight e3, and trying to control f5 square. And I played this position a few times. One of my advices here from black side, it's actually to play knight e6, straightforward. What you want to meet queen h5 move by jumping on f4, attacking the queen and controlling g6 square. And you want to meet as well knight f5 move by playing simply knight g7. That's my idea. I played this a few times, and so far I'm happy. I don't think so I'm having any trouble to play this position as a black, but at least that's what I believe white should do. This is my personal opinion. All right. So in the game against 𝘕𝑎𝑙𝑎, my opponent basically has decided to take on f6 by knight, and he played here kind of natural aggressive move, bishop h6. I have to tell you something, guys. Not always making natural attacking move is good. So in this case, your attack, I don't think so, would be succeeding because your queen is not involved. In general, when you are considering to attack the king, trying to stay aggressive, you want to make sure your queen is there. If your queen is not there, then those attacks most of the times could simply fail. So I think here white should consider to kind of play a little bit defense. I mean, not defense because they're not worst, but playing bishop e3, by my understanding, it's smarter because it's kind of created tension between these pieces. Plus, it controls the diagonal and making sure there is no such a pin situations here. So, my opinion, that would be like a better way for white to deal with. So my opponent has decided to play bishop h6 once again, trying to stay aggressive. And I guess he missed, that's the first moment he missed. After rook g8, maybe he didn't see he can't really chase my knight, since I have very important in-between move, bishop g4. And now what's going on, I'm cutting this queen from jumping on h5, and plus white can't play f3 because we have a very strong x-ray. That could be the first moment my opponent made a slightly mistake. In fact, they can't really play queen h5 here as well, instead of c3, because same reason. So bishop g4, it's very annoying threat, which forcing white to, let's say, not waste the time, but make an extra move by playing king h1. And here, after some thoughts, I have decided to play very aggressive, because I thought if I played some kind of natural, normal, kind of slow moves, my pieces could be kicked out from the right positions, and I'm going to lose initiative and white would control the game. One thing you must remember, if you have decided to play openings such as Schliemann Gambit, you must understand you must stay whole game aggressive. You can't just handle those positions with truly positional way, because most of the times you are dealing with wild type of positions with very dynamic, and it's required from you to have on very high skills, on higher level, your tactical skills, your dynamic ability. So after king h1, I have decided to play f5. Right away, I'm trying to solve the issues on the king side, and I'm trying to control, actually overtake the king side and control it with my own pieces. So I guess the next move from white side, pretty much obligation. They have to take on f5 by knight. And here, first I took on f5 by bishop. Yeah. So I'll tell you honestly, when I played f5, I just made this move. It was, I would say, I'm not saying positional sacrifice. I just made the move because I knew that move must be done. And while my opponent was thinking, I was thinking about how to deal with the situation. What do I do? Do I play here queen h4 or the move which I played e4? So the reason why I refused to play queen h4, because I thought this is kind of slow. After bishop e3, if I play e4, I'm going to deal with annoying move g3, and I didn't like it. So I have decided to be a little bit tricky. So I'm trying to use situation on h6 bishop here. The bishop is unprotected. I have to remind you, most of the times the reason why tactical operation happening, it's because we have weak and critical squares. So everyone knows weak squares, but not many of you guys understand what means critical squares. Critical squares, typically squares which, let's say, attacked and protected with similar numbers, let's say with even numbers, let's say 2 attacks against 2 defenses, and critical squares called squares, where we're dealing with unprotected squares, unprotected pieces. So to me, this one is unprotected on h6, so that's what I'm using. Again, when I played e4, my main line to kind of consider when I played e4, I had calculated main line as bishop e4 here, attacking these 2 guys, and obviously the best move here, f4, to defend the bishop, and after this to play c3. So here I had calculated line d5, and after c takes d4, I saw bishop d6, and I saw whenever bishop will go, I will take the pawn on f4, I will create this, mating threat, and I think my bishop definitely better than his bishop, and actually I like my position to play. So that's the reason when I played e4 move instead of queen h4. In fact, I was surprised when Houdini was showing the best for white. Houdini is the engine, was showing the best for white not to capture straight and playing here, since the knight trapped anyway. But again, according to Houdini, the position is still complicated. Black definitely not in trouble, and I think after playing still bishop d6 move, black in general is fine. But that was the main line, and I was surprised when my opponent, after taking some time, went here bishop e2. Well, again, for me this is a double explanation. Either he just didn't see it, move c3, he didn't see the idea about capturing the knight on d4, because knight kind of trapped. I guess maybe he didn't continue this line. I guess it's simple, some kind of, blunder in calculation, because after bishop e2, I knew definitely I'm better. How much better, I didn't know, but I knew definitely my position, it's so promising. And now I need to find some kind of, very straight continuation. After this point, I'm not sure how much time I had advantage, but I think I had, pretty much significant amount of time, and I had ahead of time. So I needed to find some kind of, strong continuations. Here, I have spent some time to calculate many lines. Obviously, queen h4 could be the main point here, kind of the main response. Jumping here, attacking the bishop, obviously attacking the pawn, attacking this kind of pawn. But you know what? I wasn't sure what to do after. Let's say he plays here, and I played, for instance, like queen h3. I don't have any threats yet. There is no threats yet. White could be playing slow, and also white has this kind of tricky move, rook g1, and I wasn't sure if I need these complications, because this is also could be very interesting. White could play some kind of ideas with bishop f1, forced to go to the end game. So I wasn't sure if I need to play that way here. All right, and I have decided after some time of thinking, as I said, I saw one interesting idea, and I think speaking practically, idea is the best. So I saw the way I can play queen f6. With tempo, I improve my situation with my queen. I attack the pawn, but that's only as a distraction. Obviously, if pawn would be unattended, I will take it. So I knew move it's coming, it's c3. And that's what I saw. Again, it's not a winning line. It's actually, I would say, when you trade, you exchange your rook for minor piece and pawn. But the pawn, which I'm taking it's a very important pawn because it's a middle pawn, and it keeps white's king being weak. So I thought from future perspective, that's going to be a very promising sacrifice, and I'm kind of controlling the game because I'm going to take initiative in my hand. So he took it, check. Well, playing forward, it's very dangerous because there is many things could happen. Let's say if you play here, I could play rook g8 check, and if you play, let's say here, there's many things including h5, and I think I was going to play, in fact, knight f3 to disconnect this and simply threaten it like many things, such as queen h4 check, for instance. So I think this simply could be over very soon. One of possible lines to show you could be this, for instance. Let's say in this case I can play probably h5, or I can play h5 right away. This could be very dangerous for white to play. And I knew my opponent would play here king h1. I think that's the normal move. And here, as I said, white has some problem as well with the pieces. The king is weak. There is always some issues with possibly getting mated by many ways, attacking g2 square, maybe creating this battery after d5. And I think white found the only way, bishop h5. The idea of bishop h5 move, it's jumping with g4 with queen and trying to propose black to play endgame, which my first impression, I was thinking to refuse to play endgame and maybe play some kind of move such as like rook g8. Then I saw if I play rook g8, he could play rook g1, he could also trade some rooks, and I thought if he's going to kind of simplify a little bit position, then he's going to be okay. You know, and then when I start to look at the endgame more closely, I understand, you know what, endgame actually I'm fine. I'm not supposed to be in trouble, and in fact, not even in trouble, I'm supposed to be better. Because, you know, the huge difference, guys, between playing endgame and middle game, it's a value of your pieces. Because most of the pieces, let's say in middle game, they kind of, some of the pieces I would say, they kind of slipping, right? It's really hard to control the full board as more square as possible in middle game because some of the pieces, they not working properly, not working with full strength. In middle game, in fact, it's a different picture. In any game, I'm sorry. In endgame. So in endgame, if your pieces are working with full strength, you do not feel, let's say, disadvantage in material. I always said, if you check all my lectures, through all my lectures, I always said this main principle, one of the main principles. We do not play material, we play squares. So again, after some thoughts, I figure out, you know what, the endgame, actually, I'm fine. So I played here. Well, I knew my opponent planning to play queen g4, and you know what, I'll take the second pawn. Now, I have minor piece and 2 pawns for exchange, which means I have completely full compensation for exchange. All right? So I felt, you know what, if I didn't win this game, maybe my opponent will find some kind of, you know, amazing draw, then it's fine. But I knew I am the side who is kind of dominating here, not white. And after here, my opponent took it. And first real mistake happening right here, when my opponent played bishop e8. I think the only chance for white to survive, it was a4. White rook need more air, and they needed to, you know, get some files, get some lines. And also bishop needed to stay on this diagonal to control e2 square, making sure the pawn is not moving forward. So a4 was the main move. Honestly, obviously, I saw a4, but honestly, I couldn't figure out which move is the best because a couple of moves could be considered here. Very interesting move here, it's b4 with idea to creating 2 passers. It's kind of risky because there is not a clear situation, but the move is very interesting, very interesting. And also possible to play here some kind of moves, king g7, kind of improving my position, you know. I'll tell you what, while my opponent was thinking here, I said depends how much time he will have on his clock. If he's going to have, let's say, a really dangerous amount of time, then I might consider to play b4 to make things more unclear and try to play this with 2 passes in the middle. in case if our time remained around even, then I might consider to play a little bit slow by playing, let's say, rook f5 or king g7. But my heart was telling me to play b4, to be honest. So I was surprised when my opponent went here bishop e8. It's kind of a very cheap threat by capturing my pawn. And I guess maybe he missed, maybe he underestimated, simply moved e3. And after e3, I think white's position is quite, I mean, it's very dangerous, because the only move to me it was back to h5, which showing you made a mistake in general. But my opponent played here rook e8 to connect his moves, because now still my pawn in price. But I guess he missed my another strong reply, knight at f3 with tempo, forcing to play rook e2, and knight e5. So as you see, my knight relocate to the middle. It defending my pawn, and most importantly, it's cutting squares from the bishop. And now look at the bishop. Bishop simply could get lost, because in fact the bishop has only 2 squares to kind of feel safe. It's e8 and h5. So my opponent played here rook d1, hoping to activate his rooks. d5. I was kind of calculating rook d4 move, and even in that case I thought I might consider to simply play rook d4 and knight f3, and looks like this guy in trouble as well. So he can't play rook d4, and after d5 he had decided to play king g2, rook g4, while inviting white to play king h3, and now king h3 the white king could get mated somewhere. So he played king h1, and now my simple improvement, there is no rush, and king g7, rook f1. Okay, after this case my opponent was really low on time, because he spent so much time when after bishop e8. So here I knew my opponent willing to give up his exchange by capturing my bishop on f2, and my first impression was to play here rook f4 to defend my bishop and kind of keep situation in Zugzwang for white. But then I saw a very first line, and I figured out, well, I think that's very simple. I'm going to simple win the game by playing this very tricky move, very smart and tricky altogether, king h6, not f6, h6 to control actually h5 square. And the idea is, when my opponent must take on f2, I have here moved rook g8. Rook g8, and what's going on? The bishop simply trapped. That line loses because I have rook g6, and the main line is supposed to be here rook f6 check, and rook e6, the only move. But after this, so this is over, because there is nothing going on. I mean, if you play rook e7, I play here. I think the only way for white to deal with is to capture and to capture, and most simplest one would be here b4 and d4. And now this guy is cut it, and this guy is going to be queening. Very simple. And after move rook g8, after move here, my opponent just simply resigned the game. He gave up his game. Well, game was the best game of the week. What else? As I said, this line, if you guys will play Schliemann, you have to know these ideas, and I hope I did provide you some insiders. I hope you like that, and we will continue talking about Schliemann in our few next sessions for sure. Maybe some of you guys will play Schliemann and will join my club, and we'll be together. All right?